What's your hurry this morning? Got things to do?
Yeah, I got a dog to calm down.
Hi, guys. I hope everybody's having a great Saturday. We're bracing ourselves for some ugly weather this weekend. Of course, it's a long weekend, so you know it rains. It's going to rain. It has to. It's just the nature of the beast, I'm afraid. What is this? Tip for the day: if you have shorts on and your sweat is dripping down your. Okay. Okay.
Well then.
We're coming very close to losing that PG rating. And it won't be me that does it. That's amazing. Hi, Lucy. Thank you. That's a sweet thing to say. My hair looks nice. I had to beat it into submission this morning. The humidity went way up. It looked like one of those old-fashioned mops, gray, stringy, just wild, going wherever it wants. Well, thank you, Linda. It's very nice of you to say. I am so glad to be back teaching. I don't do boredom well. I've discovered I don't do inactivity well. It's just not me. Anywho, I'm still dealing with a few little things, but certainly nothing serious. So I am anxious to get painting and creating. My membership group, if you haven't checked already, I have posted a few things for you to download. I still have a bit more to go. So there is lots coming up for my membership group this month. We have 5 lives for them this month. Well, 6 if you count their live class. Thanks, Sheila. And so we have a lot on our plate this month, and lots of diversity. I've added a whole bunch of different mediums into this month, so we're going to have a lot of fun. And before we get started, I have a couple of people to thank. Kathy Reinheimer and Linnell Kostick-Watchhorn. Thank you both so much. I got your cards this week. It was very sweet, and it was just lovely to find a little note in the mail this week. So thank you very much. And what else? Right? We have giveaways. We have something a little special this week. We've got some Create bags, and we've got some Tombow goodies in there for you. And Dynasty has given us a beautiful set of brushes because it's July, and I'm doing Christmas in July. And so the brush set is our Santa set. So there's a rake and a fan and a detail brush. So there are 3 sets of those in the giveaways this week, plus some other goodies. We always throw some fun stuff in. And because it's July, I've got a Christmas in July section on the website. So all of the Christmas patterns and designs and whatnot that are in there are all on sale. So if you're looking for Christmas stuff to paint, away you go. You got lots to pick from. And we are going to be doing some Christmas pieces through the month of July in these lives. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that too. I've got a fun new surface. It's a squat little tag with a stand. I'm having way too much fun with it. I'm going to give you a heads up right now. And I've also got some new stencils in. We also got the Design Essentials sets back in. What else did we get? We got a whole bunch of stuff in, and there's more coming. So I'm just excited about that. We're going to do some fun things throughout the summer, and lots of winter, lots of Christmas, and we're just going to have a little bit of fun with it. But today we're going to be painting the third in that Fleurs de Printemps series, which is the Daffodil, which is the last one. This is one of my favorites. I get a little obsession with yellows. I have no idea why. Not a color I wear, but I'm kind of obsessed with this color right now. So I'm going to have a little bit of fun with some mixed media. I'm using Deckworks fluid acrylics for this piece, but I will give you alternatives from the Americana line so that if you don't have the fluid acrylics, you'll still be able to paint this piece quite easily. So we're going to have a little bit of fun painting a daffodil. And if everybody's on here today, holy Moses, I'm watching this chat wheel just fly by. So we're going to tackle this. To get your name on the wheel at the end of today's live, all you got to do is just pop into the chat, say hi, hit the share button, hit all the buttons. The subscribe button, the share button, the like button, whatever you like. Just hit the buttons, and we'll put your name on the list. And then at the end of the day, we spin the wheel 3 times, and then we get 3 winners. And you're going to get that Santa set of Dynasty black gold brushes, plus some other goodies from Tombow. And of course, there's always some fun stuff from us as well. And I'm going to be sending out a couple of Just Because packages this week for a number of different reasons, but they're not prizes. You didn't win anything. We're just recognizing you for your kindness, your support of other designers and artists, and your support of each other. So just watch your mailboxes. 3 of you are going to be getting a Just Because package. So if you guys are ready to get started playing in paint today, so am I. Let's see if I can switch this without making a mess. Renee's made some changes. There we go. Oh, wowzers. So this is the piece that we're going to be doing today. When I was prepping my piece, of course, whenever I'm doing this, I always print off one of the patterns so that I have everything. And I realized that the pattern for the daffodil did not have the, pardon me, the PDF with the collage sheet. So if you're if you're looking for that collage sheet, I put the link on the Tracy Morrow live page. And I also put it on my page. So you can just go click the link and download the collage sheet for this pattern if you're missing it. So before I get started, I want to quickly say hello to a few people. Who am I missing? Hi, Karen Knox. Thanks for joining us. And Lucinda Aranda, nice to see you. And yes, I am feeling better. Yes, it is getting long. Who else is here? Charmaine Bannister. Hello, sweetie. Thank you. I do feel a lot better. I've been taking some supplements and some vitamins and whatnot, try to boost my immune system a little bit. Nancy Lewis, thank you for joining us. Hello, Miss Judy. Nice to see you, sweetie. And Joan Schoen. You need a new computer. Any suggestions? You know what? Asus VivoBook. I have 2 of them here in the studio. They are powerful little computers and reasonably priced. You get a lot of computer for the money, let's say that. And it's a very decent little laptop. I love it. I'm not running late. And Patrick, hello, sweetheart. And JL Brewer and Ann Fogg. Hello, Ann. I hope you're feeling better, dear. And Cindy Braden. Hi. And Louise Long. Oh, my goodness. Everybody's here today. I'm so glad to see you all here. Brenda Owen. Deb Bloomfield. Okay, the crew that went to Chattanooga, I'm still so sad that I could not be there. The crew that went down to Chattanooga had the best time. And just made me miss them even more. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there. But they looked like they were having the time of their lives. It was awesome. So thank you so much for sharing all of those pictures and whatnot in the group and on Facebook, because I couldn't be there, but I sure felt like I was still part of the fun. So thanks so much for that. Hello, Dibby. It's not a Saturday without me? Aw, that's so sweet. Oh no, Patrick, I'm so sorry. Send my condolences to Eddie, please. Heidi, I'm glad you're feeling better. Linda Salsini, hello from Michigan. Hello from New Brunswick. It's lovely to have you here. Let's see. Oh my goodness, everybody's in here today. I could be saying hello for hours on end. Okay, so this is the piece we're going to be working on, and I love this one because the background, you can have so much fun with it. So we're going to start with this. This is a 6x12 panel. Pretty straightforward. You get them almost anywhere. You can use the 6x12 canvas or watercolor paper, whatever you like. It's just... The fun part about this is that there is no real rules for what has to go where. So the stencil that I'm using for this one is this. This one is from Cupboard Distributing. And I love Chris Hoy's collage stencils. She just comes up with the best things. So I'm going to grab a stencil brush. Me and the stencil brush have got an ongoing battle here. I keep losing one. My favorite stencil brushes. I know they're here somewhere, but I keep losing them. They get lost in the house, in the studio. So this one is called Postal Script Stencil. It's in the collage at Cupboard Distributing at cdwood.com. They have a great selection of these collage stencils, and I really, really like this one in particular. And you can probably guess why. Hello, cancellation stamp. I just love anything to do with a cancellation stamp. I'm going to move this a little bit. I wanted to get more of that stamp on there. There we go. And I'm going to try to get that level, although it's not really that important. There we go. So I'm using a little bit of asphaltum on a stencil brush. And circular fashion, change directions frequently. We're just building a little bit of background interest in here. And it's all about layers. Putting in layers. Layers of various things to create interest. And you can do it sparsely or you can do a lot of it. It's entirely up to you. And this little stencil, this stencil in particular, I love the pattern. The, illegible script. There's some fun things. Oh, Leanne, my little bee ring. Renee gave this to me for my birthday a couple of years ago. It's a little white gold bumblebee on a honeycomb, but then I have the thumb ring with diamonds and whatnot. That's the honeycomb as well. Because, all things bee, all things skulls. I have a minor obsession. I'm even wearing a bee around my neck, so I have a minor obsession with bees. I mean, they show up all over the place, right? So, hi, Karen. Renee is off with Maze. My husband is trying to get some work done. Somebody has to look after Maze because Maze is a handful. So Renee's got Maze for the afternoon. You've got me. So I have delicate hands. They only look that way because I got a manicure. Otherwise, they look like feet. So, I do not have delicate hands by any stretch of the imagination. I thought going out and getting oh, thank you, Judy, for adding to our For the Puppers Fund. We appreciate that. I went out thinking I would go get a little bit of sun. And instead, and I should know by now at this age, instead of getting tanned, I got age spotted. It looked like somebody splattered me with asphaltum. I had dots everywhere. All of my age spots got darker. So, oh, see, I love that. I love this stencil. It's just so versatile. And I'm going to put a row. I turn it upside down. It's not legible anyway, so it doesn't matter. We're going to add a little bit more along the bottom. Just because I like to carry the pattern along. And as I said, it's illegible script anyway. You can't read it. Nobody has any idea what it says, if it says anything at all. There we go. And it just fills in the space. Now you can, if you like, take your stencil. Any place that you've got some negative space that you want to fill in, feel free. There's no rules. I kind of like this. I'm going to bring in a little extra text. Look at that. Okay. There we go. So, it fills in a little of that space so that it gives you a little more continuity. But that's all we really need to do for that part of the background. Easy peasy. I'm going to dry this real quick. Linda's on a plane, but she's watching. I have arthritis in my hand. I have two fingers that are deforming at this point. My index finger on my left hand is twisting at the tip, and this one has developed a big knot in it, so it doesn't, the hands are getting older. Renee and I were discussing this earlier, that, getting older is not for the faint of heart and not always fun. But, at least we're still here. Every day above ground is a blessing. Oh my goodness, Karen found her kitchen counter. Yes, I do know what that means. It means you're going to be making cookies, right? So I'm going to use one of my script stamps. I like layering over top. Just tucking in little bits here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect. But I like to put that little change in, right? A little bit here and there. I'm going to use cancellation stamps. You knew I was going to do this. Oh my, that one's not very dark. There we go. So I've got a few little cancellation stamps popped in there. Maybe I'll use this one. I like this one. Here we are. Oh, that one's much better. I like cancellation stamps. I tuck them everywhere, here and there. There is no real rhyme or reason. We're just filling up the background with some pattern. So we're going to take a little bit of one of my favorite papers. I love this stuff. Why do they call it the golden years? I'm afraid to ask, Anne. Ooh, homemade chicken gumbo, spicy. Ooh. No, getting old is not for sissies. Okay, so we're going to choose. I love this paper. I do. I seriously love this paper. It's got all of the things that I like. So I'm going to grab a piece. If you're looking for this, this is Tim Holt's Ideology. And this one is called Entomology. This one has butterflies and bugs and text and cancellation stamps and all of the fun things in it. Is why I particularly love this one, because it's got a whole bunch of things in it that I just love. So you're going to tear off a piece that is a little bit longer than the surface we're working at. And then you have to decide how you're going to tear this and what you want to see on it. I really love this cicada in here. I just think that this is such a cool image to put on there. And I love the beetles. I love the butterflies. So I think I'm going to tear it this way. So I'm going to tear it kind of diagonally, if that makes any sense. I want to go diagonally across this piece. There we go. And then I can decide how much of everything I'm going to have showing. So less butterfly, more text, more cicada. I can eliminate the big butterfly altogether. I really like that. There's something about bugs. I have a thing for bugs. The nice part is that if you can't get it to work for you, doesn't work for you, you can always grab the piece that you just took off. And that can work too. I like the diagonal thing. It's a little easier on the eyes than something that's just straight up and down. Hey, Crystal. I am back, and thank you. I am feeling much better. So, oh, now I don't know. I think I'll use this one. It's what you love about me. I'm decisive. Okay, so I'm going to show you a really neat trick. And I know you guys have probably seen this 100 times before, but I'm going to show you anyway. I'm going to use a little bit of matte medium. And I'm going to put a generous dollop, and I'm going to brush that so that it covers a good chunk of this surface. And generous, not gobs. You don't want so much of it that, but you need a generous application.
Everything going good?
So far, so good.
You saw Judy Thacker?
I did. Hot and humid Houston. Okay, so what you're going to do, this paper is, it's very thin, it's very light, but it has a tendency to stretch and buckle the minute it hits this wet stuff. So you're going to give it a light spritzing with just some water. And I like to do both sides. It just makes handling this paper that much easier. And then...
Do you need anything? I gotta go pick up dog food, so...
Nope.
Okie dokie.
Alrighty.
Have fun.
You do you. So, when the paper is wet... Okay, and I've got it crooked, so it doesn't want to behave. Hello. I'm going to position it so that it lays on there. And you see, I've got wrinkles galore, but that's okay, because look. I'm going to pick it up from this side and lay it in. Good gravy, Marie. There we go. Ever have one of those days where, the right hand doesn't know or care what the left hand is doing? That's me today. There we go. So you can use your fingers. Press that paper down. This paper is not as fragile as you think it is. So don't be afraid to put your fingers on it. Don't be afraid to push on it. So if you need to smooth something out, you can. Oh, I love that. Look at that. So if you find that your paper is perhaps blistering or buckling too much, you can spritz it in place and then move it around. As long as it stays wet, you can move the paper around. So I'm going to take a little bit more matte medium, and we're going to brush a nice even coat over top of everything. And we're going to come right past the edge of that paper. It's matte medium. It dries matte. It's not, you can go past the edges. It's not going to hurt anything. So nice even coat. Make sure you go past the edges. Make sure those edges are glued down. Do the same thing on the edge here. And then we're going to take our heat gun and we're going to dry this. I love working with this matte medium because it allows you to get away with so much more. I love this paper. And these little bits that you tear off, keep them, because you can do so many other fun things with them. Use them in your mixed media projects. Use them for parts of your background, like I did here. Even just scraps of it. And if you can't find this entomology paper, just take a sheet of copy paper and some stamps and go to town. put some pattern on it, add some butterflies, add some whatever you want to it, and then make a photocopy of your stamp paper, and use that. You can do all sorts of fun things. So this is almost dry. Just make sure. Ann Easterling, hello. And Char Launer, welcome. Dorothy Holgate, hello. Danita Sicardo and Linda Giesbrecht, hello, sweetheart. So nice to see everybody here. Elsie Sturm, happy anniversary, Elsie. Elsie and her husband celebrating an anniversary this week. She posted a photograph of her husband. What a fabulous smile. It's one of those faces that just lights up a room. Okay. So one of my favorite tools whenever I'm using things like this is one of these. This is a dollar store emery board nail file. Down and away. Helps you clear off, and it leaves a nice clean edge. So you don't have those rough bits. You don't have paper glued down to the sides. It just gives you a nice clean finished look. And I like clean finished. There we go. So we have a fun background. The next thing we're going to do is add some more stamps and stencils to this. You can stencil it if you want to. I really like using stamps. I like the variety of pattern that they offer. I like that they can create more texture and more images. And somebody asked me the other day, have to be going horizontally? No, and interest in this background. So if they're vertical, horizontal, it doesn't matter. If it makes you happy, do it. Now I've got a series of stamps on here. I'm going to take this little one off because these two are a little lower. So I just love anything with cancellation stamps. There we go. Okay, that didn't work very well, but it's all good. I just finished saying that it doesn't have to be perfect, and it doesn't. So I've got some fun cancellation stamps in there. Pick it up. It looks a little busy. That's okay. Busy's good. It's got stuff going on back there. So I'm going to push those out of the way. And I'm going to make sure that these are really dry. Oh, his birthday. Oh my goodness. I thought it was your anniversary. I'm confusing you with somebody else. Well, wish him a very happy birthday for us. Yes, he is a light. I mean, you can see that in his photo. He has the best smile. Just the best smile. There's always something, my husband has a smile like that. He doesn't do it very often. Well, he smiles, but every once in a while when he really smiles, you get that big joyful smile on his face. His eyes disappear. And Elsie's husband's eyes just turn to these two little creases, and he just looks wonderful. I was so struck by that smile. So I have warm white. You can do this with light buttermilk. I like doing it with warm white. I'm going to thin out a little bit of warm white. You want it at about a milky consistency. And then you're going to brush a coat. And this might be a little too thick. That's okay. Out comes a little Joe Sonia. We'll thin that out some more. There we go. That's better. So this does two things. One, it softens this background a little. And two, it unifies everything that we've done. So it becomes one background as opposed to a whole bunch of different layers. Yeah, Virginia, that's a great way to make collage paper, is to stamp on tissue paper. Yes, ma'am. Rice paper is another one. Buying just inexpensive rice paper and stamping on it and then using that for collage paper is amazing. I make my own. I just use little, some favorite stamps or some doodles that I have laying around and just create some really fun patterns on some copy paper and then make photocopies of it. You can do all kinds of fun things. There we go. So I'm going to dry this really well because I've just put enough glaze and water and paint on here to reactivate all of that matte medium. So I'm going to dry this really well. So all of that pattern back there is now unified. It all falls into the same tone, and that just gives us a really solid background to work on. The fun part is we can add more pattern to this if we want to. We can add more details to this if we want to. I'm going to dry this and I'm going to show you one of my favorite things. I love adding a really distressed edge to this, and I do it with a stamp pad. You can do it with a paintbrush, but I really like how the stamp pad looks when I do this. Here we are. Hello, Liz Minardo. Thank you. I am feeling much better. Few little residual things, but again, nothing serious. There we go. All right, so I think that's well dry. I'm going to take my stamp pad. And this is so fun because you can do as little of this as you want or as much. So I use the stamp pad to just lay it flat at an angle. And then I rub the edges of my surface. Now, the flatter it is, the bigger the border. The sharper the angle. You get lots of texture. So if you want just a little bit, stand it right up. Gives you a narrow border. If you want lots, lay it down. Now, when I rub, I'm not rubbing lengthwise. I'm working in a little circular fashion so that I get that pattern. And it rounds out corners nicely. I can be a bit more aggressive with it if I want to. If I want a little darker here and there. But I really love getting those rounded corners. But I do that with paint too. There we go. So we have this very fun background all set to put our design on. Now I'm going to dry this before I handle it. Otherwise I'm going to have black ink everywhere. So this just makes for a really fun background. So you can put almost anything on there. I mean, it works so well for a variety of things. And it is just a layer of the background. Do I have to spray the piece before varnishing it? No. This stamp pad, I use the Stays On. This one is permanent. And it's not bothered by a water-based varnish at all. Hi, Margaret Davis. Thanks for joining us. So yes, it just creates a really interesting border. And you can do it as thin as you like or as subtle as you like, or you can get really aggressive with it. This just kind of reminds me of old photographs. You know, eventually the colors or the edges of it fray a little bit. where do I get my stays on? They are not easy to find. The local Michael stores carry very small quantity of them, and they are quite expensive. I generally will order them through either Amazon or scrapbook.com. Amazon I found is the most consistent, and roughly the same price as any place else. So that tends to be my go-to. I love my stays on stamp pads. And I usually buy a lot of them at once because I go through them like crazy. So, yeah. So yes, stays on stamp pads, and I usually have them in three colors. I like the white one, I like the black one, and then there's one that is a dark brown. I gotta find mine. Here it is. This one, timber brown. This is as close to asphaltum as I've found in a stamp pad, and I really like this one too. So either in the jet black, opaque white, or in brown. These are great. Hi! Yes, I'm getting my energy back, which is, muy importante. So, we've got our background ready to go. Of course, I had to prep ahead of time, so I have my background done. And I have my flower drawn on. It's a fun background, and it's versatile. You can do all sorts of fun things with it. And when I traced my line drawing on, I put it on, the paper is upside down, which is okay. It's okay. I'm good with it. Biggest reason for that is I wanted that cancellation stamp, front row and center. So I have my daffodil traced on here, and the color that I'm using today, I'm using Decort's fluid acrylics, and the color that I'm using is I'm using a primary yellow because I don't have the Hansa yellow. So you can use a Sunny Day for this, and that's just your base color. We're going to just wash in a little bit of yellow. And this one is a very bright yellow. So I'm going to pull that yellow in. It is very bright, and that's okay. Bright yellow, bright, bright, bright. I like these fluid acrylics because you don't have to base coat per se. It's very transparent. So washes of color maintain that high pigmentation, so you get lots of color. So I'm just doing the starred petals out here. We're going to have a little bit of fun with this. So it would be a lighter value of yellow. If you're working with Americana, a little bit of Sunny Day would be perfect. And you'll see why in a little bit. The Sunny Day is going to be a little bit more opaque than the fluid acrylic, but that's all right. Everything else that's coming after is going to be a little more subtle. If you don't have Sunny Day, you could use Baby Duck. It'll just mean that your daffodil is going to be a little bit lighter, but not a lot by the time we're done. And then we've got the bowl. We're going to do the cup, the little yellow cup of our daffodil. There we are. Now, the stems and the leaves are all done with this. This is green gold. You can use a margarita green or a sour apple if you're working with the Americanas. Just need a high yellow green, something with a high amount of yellow in it. So a sour apple would be really pretty. There is the stem. And then the leaves get that color as well. I'm going right over my lettering, as the lettering is going to be more opaque anyways, so. And the joy is that the fluid acrylics and that light green, sour apple, whatnot, is going to stay transparent enough that you'll be able to see your tracing anyway. Love it. I love this green gold. I just think it's such a fabulous color. There we go. High yellow green, very transparent, vivid, and it's going to do wonders for us. So we have all of our base color in. Pretty straightforward. And I know under the cameras it's hard to tell the difference between that yellow and that green. They are very, very bright. So I'm going to dry this real quick. Now, in the original piece, I used a color called quinacridone gold, which is very transparent, orangey yellow. It's a very, very rich color. Unfortunately, it's very hard to find, and it's one of my favorites. And look at that. I found it. So quinacridone gold. It looks like a red, but it reads more like an orangey yellow. If you cannot find this color, or if you're working with the Americanas, then I would suggest using either burnt sienna, or even that you could substitute it completely and use a little bit of orange flame and then float over it with some asphaltum. You'll get there anyway. So I'm going to use a little bit of that quinacridone gold. I'm going to use a smaller angled shader. I'm thinking a 3/8. And I'm working with faux squirrel today. Now, just so you can see this color, this is that quinacridone. Do you see it comes up more orange? It looks more brown when you squeeze it out of the bottle, like a reddish brown or a burnt sienna, but this turns more orange. And so this is the result. You get more of that orangey tone under there. So this is my first shading color. And I've got too much water in the brush. There we go. This is my first shading color. I love this quinacridone. It's a beautiful tone. And we're going to shade underneath and behind those petals, like so. Wherever the petals overlap and underneath that bowl. So that's where we're going to put a little of that quinacridone. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous tone, and it works so well with yellows. When I'm painting sunflowers, I usually use Americana's orange flame, and then I deepen it with a little bit of asphaltum. The quinacridone gold gives me that look in one float. So into the throat of our flower, we're going to use that in there too. So I'm going to grab a little more color. And then I'm going to shade down the center veins with this. Look at that. Such a gorgeous, gorgeous tone. So as I said, if you don't have that color, try a little bit of orange flame and then float over top of that with a little bit of asphaltum. Just a little. You don't want to turn it dark brown, but just enough to tone it a little bit. So there's our, so pretty. I love this color. And this is a bit more, let's say, user-friendly. I like that term, user-friendly. You don't have to have the perfect floats for this. And my reasoning is you don't need a perfect float because it's all very transparent. You can see that you still see all of the stamping, all of the stenciling, all of the pattern right through the flower. That's part of its charm, I think. So deepen those floats. Just means you go back in, put another layer on. I love the layers. Layers gives you more depth. Okay, so I'm going to put a nice little shadow down here. And before anybody asks, what about the graphite lines? What about them? We're just going to leave them there. We're going to put some ink over top of them anyway. So I don't worry about them. But I am going to make sure that these floats here are nice and deep. See how pretty? Quinacridone gold. There we go. So you can see that it's rapidly taking shape, starting to develop all of that depth that we're looking for. So I want to come back in to the cup because we need to deepen in here, deepen into that throat a little bit. And then all of these little folds, remember all these little folds here? We're going to put a float of that quinacridone in there too. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to be there. That little float, those little bits of shading in there are going to make a huge difference in this piece. So, there we go. Now, we have to also shade underneath the lip on the edge of this petal. There's a little flip over in here. So we need to put a nice little shadow underneath it. There we go. And that is going to help give a little more depth, a little more shape to our daffodil. So we're going to leave this for a moment. And we're going to come down to these stems and whatnot. I'm using a little bit of, in a fluid acrylic, it's called sap green, which is a very dark, very transparent green. And it's very similar to plantation pine, just a lot more pigment. So we're going to shade inside these leaves, like so. So inside that leaf, up against that stem, just like that. Little float. And we're going to do the same thing to the inside. Here we are. Of this leaf. And then underneath the flower, we need a little shadow right underneath that petal, right at the top. It's a little float of that sap green. And then we're going to put a float of it down the left side of the stem. It's not a perfect float by any stretch of the imagination. You can just put a line of it in if you want to. We'll add a little highlight on the other side, balance things out. There we go. And then there's the center vein on these leaves. Needs a little float as well. Just a little. I think what appeals to me about this type of painting is that it's very loose, it's very relaxed. None of these floats have to be absolutely perfect. Because you're working over top of an imperfect surface. So it gives you a little bit of grace. You can get away with a bit. And the one thing you will find is when you start putting in opaque highlights, this changes yet again. And it does make a huge difference. So we've got a few shadows in place. I'm going to rinse out my brush. And we're going to come back up to this daffodil because I've got a color here. I absolutely love diarrhea yellow. If I can get it out of the bottle. Oh my stars and garters. So a little bit of diarrhea yellow. One of my favorite colors in the Americanas, particularly in the yellows, is saffron yellow. It has such a high saturation. It's such a bright yellow. So whenever things start to look a little mousy, you can bring in a little of that diarrhea. I love that yellow. It has that massive saturation of color. And I put a wash over top of everything. And your daffodils get very, very bright all of a sudden. So just a thin wash of that diarrhea or saffron yellow over top. Do this with sunflowers too. You get just this fabulous pop of color. And also, because of its transparency, it intensifies that orangey red that we put in, that quinacridone gold. It just gets so kicked up. So, a little bit of that diarrhea yellow or saffron. Just thin it out and brush a coat on. Very thin. Not a lot of color. It doesn't need to be a lot. But look at that. Look at the saturation. I just love what this does for these daffodils. It's just a glaze for all intents and purposes. There we go. Look at that. So now we have this really intense, look at that, vibrant yellow. So we're going to dry this, and then we're going to start adding some deeper shadows and some highlights. I love it. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of asphaltum just to deepen a few shadows in a few places. But before I do that, I just realized I missed a couple of spots when I was putting in shadows. Right there. I forgot to put in a little float there and there. Muy importante. Needed to get that in there. There we go. Okay. So we're going to use a little bit of asphaltum, and I'm going to use some Joe Sonias to thin that out. You don't want this color full strength. It's a very strong color, and it can get very dark very quickly. So I'm going to, oh my goodness, get some paint in the brush trace. There we go. Little float up underneath that petal. Deepens it quite a bit. So in the deepest areas, the areas where those shadows would be darkest, like closest to the center of the flower, that's where you're going to want to put a float of that asphaltum. Just to deepen that. There we go. That little shadow does wonders. It doesn't have to be all over everything, but to deepen those shadows in a few key spots just makes a world of difference. So now we've got that nice deep shadow in there, and then I want a little bit in there. That little shadow in the center there is important. It is what provides a lot of the depth that we get in here, is getting that shadow right. I'm liking it. I think our daffodil is popping here. So once you've got shadows in, it's a really good idea to put some highlights in. Now, I'm using a little bit of warm white. I want to put a little bit of yellow in it. Just a tiny bit. Just to keep it from being too glaring. And we're going to use that. Oops, goodness. Didn't blend it out well enough. There we go. So on the highlight side, we're going to put a little of that warm white mixed with just a touch of yellow, just so that it's not a solid white. And we're going to float some highlights in. A little bit on that little petal there. A little bit in there. I like that little bit. Little highlight there. Little float of it down the center vein. And keep it loose. It doesn't need to be a super bright float. But it does, because it's white and because it's opaque, it does give you a softer highlight. Just mixing it with a little bit of that yellow. So on the frill of our cup here, opposite that shading on those, remember those little shadows we put on the frill? We're going to put a little float of that yellow. A little bit. It's a tiny little float. Very nice. So now you should be able to see. We've got a little bit of a bowl going there. And I need a little bit out at the tip here. Here we go. Cheryl, my eye is fine. I don't know if any of you noticed, but I got new goggles. They gave me new glasses. My eye is fine. No, didn't actually affect my vision in any way, which was good. The rash from the shingles actually came down from the top of my head onto my forehead and down by my left eye. And because it was so close to my eye, they were concerned for my vision because apparently it can really affect your vision. So, even though it wasn't that much, but my eye is just fine. I got the all clear. I had no issues with my vision. At all. So they took good care of me. And the other thing was getting the antiviral made a big difference for me. I think it actually helped clear things much quicker. I wasn't sure that we'd gotten to it in time, but based on how quickly the rash started clearing up, I think it was a good idea. Hello, everybody. Let's see, who's there? Kinkinny, nice to have you with us. Nice to have you with us. Watching from Australia. Goodness, it must be late for you. Or is it tomorrow already? I know it must be late for you, but wow, welcome. We're getting there with this daffodil. I think we've got the highlights coming in. There's a couple of spots that I always find are a little problematic. This edge here tends to get lost a little bit. So I'm just going to brighten that highlight a little. But there always comes a point, I believe, where you can't get that highlight any brighter. You can't get it so that it, pops for you anymore. There's only so much you can do with it. Whenever I run into a problem like that, I do the opposite. If you cannot get a highlighted edge to pop, no matter how many layers of white you put in, if you cannot get that to jump for you, then shade it. Anytime a highlight looks like it's just not getting anywhere for you, then shade against it. In this case, I wanted that edge to pop, so I put a shadow on the background. Just a light one, not a dark one, but just enough to lift it off that background. That was the idea. Just to give it a little contrast so that it jumps off of that surface. It doesn't have to be a big, deep shadow. It just needs to delineate that, make it so that there's a harder edge. And so just a little float of asphaltum against there, very thin, was enough to lift that petal off the background. Oh, she couldn't get to sleep. So now we've got a harder edge, cleaner edge for that petal. Instead of making the petal darker, I didn't want to make the petal darker because then it starts to look heavier than the rest, and I didn't want that. So I just went back in and just shaded a little back there. Hi, Linda. Oh my goodness. You've been through the wars, Miss Linda. I'm glad you're feeling better and that you're home. So there we go. So we've got a few highlights in place. One of the things I like to do, we've got there's little folds and flips in these daffodils. little folds in the petals, and they need to be addressed. I'm using a little bit of thin Daffodil. These little folds here, these are the little folds in those ripples. If they're not there, then you don't see the ripple, you don't see the contrast, and you need to have that in there. It is important to have those in there because that's what creates that depth. That's what creates those folds, is those little shadows in there. So it is important that you put them in. So I'm just basing them in with a little bit of a Schwaltem. They're just tiny little areas, but very important. There we go. So those little folds and flip overs, they need those little details. If you don't have them in there, then they have a tendency to get a little lost. Then the folds don't make sense. So there we are. If you don't have Asphaltum, you could do it with a little bit of black. Look at that. So we're going to come down into the center here with, I'm going to use the rigger for this, I think. I'm going to make a little stamen in the center of our flower here. And then I'm going to use the end of the brush to put in some white dots, just like this. It's going to look a little wonky for a minute, but that's all right. So I'm going to dry that, and then we're going to use a little bit of that quinacridone gold in there. Just put a little dot of that quinacridone gold in the center. And I'm going to dry this real quick. There we are. Now I'm going to grab my gel pen. If I can find it. There it is. This is my black gel pen. I love doing this kind of thing. Now at the edges of our daffodil, I'm adding scribbly lines. And I like my little details at the base of my petals. Just little fine hash marks. Just adds nice little detailed edges to it. Again, I'm not worrying about the precision. I like the scribbly look. I don't like them to have that perfect straight edge. So I like lots and lots of little hash marks, little dip dots. Those scribbly. Now when I say scribbly, it is imperfect and it overlaps with the graphite. So it gets, you don't even have to remove the graphite for this. And I like scribbly. Scribbly works for me. So, talked to my printer yesterday. I've got new pins coming, new buttons coming. We've got stickers coming. What else have we got? We got a bunch of stuff coming. So it's been a while since I've had some buttons and really wanted to get some in. So, and the buttons, well, we like to toss those in with your orders. So when we're shipping you an order, we like to throw in the buttons. And we've got new mini stencils coming. Nancy, this is my 0.38 Uniball Signo. It's the black gel pen. I use this one all the time. It is like my favorite thing. And we just got the design bundle in, the essentials, the design essentials. Just got all of that stuff in this week. Got all those done. And we put those in a fun little create bag for you guys. I like create bags. I'm a firm believer that you have to have appropriate storage for your stuff. And so I really like my create bags. So, little doodling. I love the doodle thing around my daffodil. And like I said, I'm not worried about this being absolutely perfect. I like the scribbly thing. There we are. So fun. It's bright yellow. I do the same thing to the leaves and the stems as well. Few lines, but we still have to put some highlights on our leaves. Pretty, pretty. So for the highlight on these leaves, I'm using a little bit of that green gold, and I'm putting a little warm white in it. You can use margarita or matcha green for this. I'm just putting in a little float of that lighter value green just to give us a nice little highlight. It just helps crisp things up a little more defined in places. And I like the opaque highlight. It just gives things a nice little pop. And it softens things. It mutes things just a little bit. But it doesn't have to be a big, perfect highlight. Neatness doesn't count. There we go. So I'm going to dry that real quick. And the same thing that I did to the flower, I'm going to do to the leaves. So lots of, scritchy, scratchy, imperfect. It's the imperfect thing. It works for me. So any of those little graphite lines that are showing, they just become part of this. They don't have to be removed. It just makes the piece that much more fun. Don't forget the stem. Got to put that in. Little sketchy details work. There we are. Love it. And I love that I can still see these bugs. The bugs, the butterflies. All of those fun things that still come through. Love it. So we have a little bit of lettering to do. I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black, and I'm going to use, I had a rigger here somewhere, there it is. I'm going to use This one is a number 2 rigger. Oh my gosh, here we go. I find some lamp black. Here we go. Next week we are painting lemons. Filomena's Limoncello is the piece that we're painting next Saturday. So, number 2 rigger, lots and lots and lots Joe Sonia's Fast Dry Glaze. You want that paint about the consistency of milk. And it's going to make your life so much simpler. And a number 2 rigger, all you have to do with a rigger is press down and let it do the work. Let it fill the space. It just makes painting lettering so much simpler. There's that S. And the riggers are available in 2 places I can give you, and they both have the same coupon code, Tracy M. You can go to Sandy McTeer's website and order your riggers from her. Or you can go to thebrushguys.com, and on both of those sites use the coupon code Tracy M, and it will give you an additional discount. Those are my 2 favorite places. If you are a Dick Blick person, the number 2 riggers are also available. Just search Dynasty Faux Squirrel. Because of the way that they have the brushes listed on their site, that's the easiest way to find them, is just to use that Dynasty Faux Squirrel brushes in their search engine. So if you like the Dick Blick, I'm a fan of Dick Blick. I like Dick Blick. I buy quite a bit from him. This is an easy font. It's been bugging me. I've been trying to think of the name of it. I think it works very well for this type of design. It has an old world look about it, but it's a very forgiving font. Some fonts are not forgiving. They're hard to read. They're hard, even worse, to paint. But this one is actually a really forgiving font. So if you make little wobbles and bobbles, it's okay, because the font itself has got wobbles and bobbles. And it's not a complex font. I find a lot of the time, and I see it in a lot of design work, where they incorporate fonts and they're very difficult to read. Not necessarily because it's in a different language, but because the way the font is designed, it is not a comfortable one to read. This one is one of those ones that I found is very user-friendly. And I like the way it looks. It still has that sort of old world look to it, but it's not so complex that it's difficult to read. And I find it frustrating when I'm painting something if the font that was chosen is too complex, too close together, too frou-frou. It just creates more issues than it solves. So I tend to look for fonts that are easy to read and suit the theme. Highlight the bowl. There is a highlight on the bowl, you just can't see it from there on camera. The lights have a tendency to wash a few things out from time to time. So, almost done with this lettering. Oops. There we go. Oh, Charmaine, good. What number? It's a 0.38. So it's a very fine pen. I have one as a 0.28 as well, but it's a little too fine. So the lettering underneath here is the same font. It's very small though. So I'm just printing it in. Because it's smaller, it's actually a little more forgiving. So you can just sort of print it in with the brush. Easy peasy. Love, love, love. I love doing lettering with a rigger. It's very comfortable. Takes a little practice to get the brush control thing down, but once you figured out how much pressure you need to get the brush to do a certain thing or a certain width, um, you won't be able to live without this for lettering because it's just such a great brush. Okay, so we have lettering. Look at that. So I'm going to dry that. Now you can make a little bit of gray with some warm white and a little bit of black. I like to make this not too dark, but so a little bit of gray. This is going to be our highlight color on our lettering. And essentially, I'm just going to put a line down the left side of the lettering, like so. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, it's better if it's not. There we are. So it's just a simple stroke on the left side of each letter. And I'm just using a little bit of gray. So I know it's hard to see it at that distance, but it's just a little stroke of a highlight. Very simple. Don't overthink this one. Just a little bit of gray. Just adds a slight highlight to the lettering. And then we're going to put a dropped shadow in. And I like doing that with a little bit of asphaltum. So I'm going to thin out some asphaltum. I want this fairly watery. And we're going to make a line almost the same size as the letter, almost. And we're going to leave a sliver of space, like so. Just a sliver of space. So we want a little gap between that line that we put in and the edge of the letter. Like so. That little space creates some elevation. If I put the shadow directly on the edge of the letter, it just becomes an additional shape. By leaving that little space, it gives the letter a little more elevation, meaning it's so the letter is hovering above the surface. And so it looks like it's floating a little bit. So it's just a simple dropped or a cast shadow. And you can do the same thing to the smaller lettering, just a little smaller. There's not a lot of space between all of these little letters, but that little line will do its job. Here we are. So, very simple drop shadow, and it's simply a line that duplicates the lettering. Gives the impression that it's floating a little bit. So, I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to add a brighter highlight to this lettering, really make it pop up a bit. And I'm going to do that with a liner and a little bit of warm white. Just a little bit of warm white. We don't want a ton of it on here. And the highlight is going to be up towards the top. That's where our light impact point is. And it's just a little stroke right on the gray. There we go. So we've got that little highlight in. Here we are. There we go. Just brightens the lettering a little. Doesn't have to be perfect. So one of the last things to do with this piece, we still have a little bit of spattering to do. What am I using? Asphaltum, Debbie. I'm using asphaltum for that drop shadow. Thank you, Bonnie. That's very nice of you. So our next step for this one, we got to do a little bit of decoupage, a little bit of collage work. Now, when I put the pattern on the website, I didn't realize that the pattern itself was actually missing the collage sheet. There is a whole sheet of various stamps and whatnot that are supposed to be in the pattern and weren't. So we did take the pattern down. We've added the collage sheet to it and reinstalled the pattern. However, if you've already purchased the pattern, you won't be able to download it. So if you go to the Tracy Morrow Live page, we have put a link for that download. So you can click on that and just go download that collage page. So on that page, there are a variety of postage stamps. This one's quite pretty. There's one with a daffodil on it. But the only thing about this was it looked very much like everything else. It didn't pop. And then I found this one with the yellow butterfly, which really appealed because it had that nice complementary color, that little punch of blue. And the other thing that it had that really appealed to me was that the butterfly reflects the colors in the daffodil, right down to the quinacridone red. So this really worked as from a design standpoint for me. So I have to decide where I'm going to put it. And I kind of like it overlapping the tulip or the daffodil a little bit. So that's why I've chosen that location for it. And I'm going to use a little bit of matte medium. And I'm going to put a generous puddle here for our flutterby. And like the tissue paper that we used, I'm going to moisten it a little bit. However, I printed mine with an inkjet. So they don't like water. So I'm not going to spray this side of the paper, but I'm going to spray the back so that I can lay it into this medium like so. And then I'm using my fingers just to press it into place. I don't want to rub it because if I rub it, I'm going to smear ink. I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to pat it into place, and then I'm going to dry it really well. So it's well seated into that medium. And now I'm going to dry it. I want it to be really dry. The other thing you can do with inkjet prints is to spray them with a little bit of matte medium. And that works quite well. Almost done. Just so that it doesn't smear. Or you can be really smart and print them on a laser printer. Hi, Nelda. I don't know where Renee is. He should be here soon. I haven't even seen him in the chat yet. He'll be here soon because we're getting to the end. Almost. Got a few things I want to talk about yet, but okay. So that's nice and dry. I'm going to use a quick coat of matte medium over top of this just to seal it in. But because it is an inkjet print, I don't want to mess with it too much. There we go. And it did smear a little bit, but that's all right. So I'm going to dry this. Love matte medium. You can use it for so many different things. I really like this little detail. Having the stamp with the colors that match, that appeals to me. The other thing that appeals is that stamp sort of falls into that, you know, those cancellation stamps that I use so much. I really like how that looks. I gravitate towards that for whatever reason. Not a stamp collector, but I got a thing for stamps and stamp shapes. So I really want a cancellation stamp on there. So I'm thinking it's going to be this one. Oh, speak of the devil, and he shall appear.
I got dog food.
You got dog food? Puppy's not going to starve?
She was going to in the first place.
No, she wouldn't, but you just didn't want us feeding her from the goodies. Whoa, where'd the chat go?
I just refreshed it.
Okay.
So that way YouTube pops up.
Ah, so I'm just using a little cancellation stamp because, you know, I can. I'm the boss of me. And I want to put a couple more in because I like it. There we go. It's a thing. I like cancellation stamps. So much so that I'm going to use another one. Only we're going to stencil this one. So, I'll move my stamps out of the way, and I'm going to grab my stencil. This is the stencil we're using. I just got these back in stock. We've got lots of them now. They do go quickly, though. This is one of my favorite stencils. This is called Postage, and it has those great cancellation stamps in it. So I'm going to put one down here, and I'm going to grab some gold paint. You can use whatever you want. If you want to use asphaltum, go ahead. I like the little bit of gold. Karen Knox, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Can I do a class in choosing and sizing the lettering for size appropriate to the painting? Ooh, that would be a good one. That would be a good one. So I'm going to put a little bit of gold paint on my palette. And I'm going to grab my stencil brush. And we're going to pick up a little bit of 24 karat gold. Ew. Ew, my paint needs a good shaking. It did not mix very well. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, that's better. Now it looks like gold paint. It looked like gold tinted something or other. So I'm going to stencil one of these cancellation stamps down here using a little bit of gold. I'm going to pick up a little bit of asphaltum because this is not, I don't like that. It's not very pretty. There we go. Ugh. I made a mess. I made a mess. Go figure. Now, this is also one of the benefits of using matte medium. So I'm going to take I messed this up big time. Like it bled everywhere. It's just god awful. This is one of the benefits to matte medium. I can remove that with just a piece of paper towel and a little water without messing up what I've already done in the background. So we're going to try this again because, you know, so I'm going to, ooh, I went right over my daffodil. That's okay. So I got a little bit of asphaltum mixed into my paint. I just was finding that the gold is not covering very well. I think it needs a really good shake is what it needs. That's much better. So I've got a cancellation in there. And we can try this one again down here. Much better. Okay. Et voila. Much better. Okay, so we've got some nice cancellation stamps in. Nice little stencil detail. I like that little gold for this. I like that little sparkle, that shimmer in there. So that appeals in a big way. So only a couple more things to do. Hi, Marion. So I'm going to make sure this is dry. And then because this has that sort of vintage aged look, we're going to spatter it a little bit just to continue with that aged appearance. So I'm going to use a little bit of lamp black.
Elsie says, good afternoon from Madra, Venezuela.
Wow.
And a huge hug.
Aw. So I like to spatter. This is a little bit of thinned lamp black. I like it fine. I watch Sandy use her method for spattering, and she manages to get the prettiest spatter on her things. If I did it that way, it would look like I just dunked it in something.
Ooh. And another from Argentina.
Hello.
Virginia Ruiz.
Nice. Oh, yes. Jessica Killeran has a brand new cranberry.
Cranberry?
Grandbaby.
Oh, cranberry.
Yeah.
Cranberry.
Cranberry. I don't know why I've got cranberries.
Cranberry.
Yep. Brand new grandbaby.
Well, congratulations.
So I'm going to take a little asphaltum and spatter with that as well, because I like the warmer tone of the asphaltum. Now, there is nothing whatever to stop you from adding brighter highlights, brightening things. If you like a darker outline, then by all means do that. I like the more sketchy, the irregular. I like that imperfect. I think the imperfections in this is what appeals to me. I'm not looking for heavily structured. I'm not looking for perfect floats. So whenever I do this, this is just a fun way to sort of get a little of your creative energy out. So that is our piece for today. This is Fleurs de Printemps, Daffodil. Lots of fun layers to put in. Lots of fun things to do. I hope you guys enjoyed this one too.
Straight into the wheel?
Yes, go straight into the wheel. We've got oodles of people. Holy hockey pucks, Batman. Where am I? There I am. So, a fun and easy project. It's not a difficult one to paint, but lots of fun. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. Thank you, Becca. Next Saturday, we're going to be painting the Filomena's Limoncello. One of my favorites. I love painting lemons, but lemons are funny. Some people really love them, other people hate them. But I really wanted something with sort of that old world European feel to it. And a friend, Filomena, we had been talking about limoncello or something, and she sent me the recipe for it. And it just inspired me, and I ended up painting limoncello. And so it's Filomena's limoncello. That's what we're doing next Saturday. We're going to have a little bit of fun.
I like lemon jello.
Not lemon jello, limoncello.
Lemon jello.
No, it's no.
Lemon jello.
No, it's not lemon jello.
No.
Oh, limoncello. It's a liqueur. A very tasty one, I might add.
You made with lemon.
It is. Who knew? Surprise, surprise. So I'm just going to reiterate, prizes this week are courtesy of Dynasty Brush. We have a Santa set. So there's a nice little black gold rake, black gold mini fan, and a detail brush in there. So nice 3-brush set. Put my pen down. All it is a sparkly blur. And there's some drawing pencils courtesy of Tombow, along with the Tombow eraser. And of course, there's some other little goodies in there too, all tucked into a nice little Create bag. So those are the 3 giveaways for today. And you guys been? Go. Good heavens. And Kay Fradnick. Congratulations, Kay. I have your shipping information. You don't need to contact me. We will get that out to you this week.
There we go. We got one for Dan.
And how many names are in the wheel this week?
200. I'm gonna need glasses. Holy crap. 204.
Nice. It's summer. There's a lot of people out playing in their gardens, on vacation, and holidays.
Or
And
in
it is
Chattanooga.
or in Chattanooga, and it is a holiday weekend.
Getting arrested.
Getting arrested. Deanna Swindlehurst. Happy Canada Day, Deanna. Deanna's in BC. Awesome sauce. Hurst. Swindlehurst.
There we go. We got that one. Spinning. That's one. They cannot hear me very well.
No, probably not. Cindy Latosky Longstaff. Cindy, hop over to my website at tracymoreau.net. Click on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send us your shipping information so we can get your goodies out to you. Awesome. And there it is. Awesome sauce. Well, thanks so much, guys, for joining us today. As you always do, we greatly appreciate it. I'm glad you come and join me and play in the paint. Everybody, if you're Canadian, have a great Canada Day weekend. Enjoy yourselves on Monday, but not so much that you can't go to work on Tuesday. Because some people do. Overindulge and overextend themselves for the holiday weekend. And to my friends in the U.S., you have a holiday coming up this week as well, so happy Independence Day to you. Don't forget, we do have a free download for both of those holidays on my website in the free download section. Please help yourself. There's lots of fun designs in there to play with in the free printable section. We have more recipes going up this weekend on the recipe page on the website. I know.
You have a recipe page now?
Yeah, I do. They asked, I gave it to them. What can I do?
Is
So-
your butter chicken on there?
Yes. So we're going to be adding a couple more things to the recipe page. We've added a bunch of new things to the website. We've got phone stands are back in. We've got a fun new surface. It's called the Squatty Tag. I just love this one. Comes with a little stand and everything. It's a great little surface, and I've got a couple of designs coming up for you on that. We've got some new stencils in. We've restocked on a bunch of of other stencils that we were perilously low on, and we've got a bunch of new surfaces coming up. And I've got a really fun cattle tag. Sorry, 2 fun cattle tags coming up. One big one, and we've got an alpaca coming up. I know they asked me for an alpaca. I
They
mean,
wanted an alpaca?
they so I got an alpaca. What can I say? So yes, we're gonna have fun. In the meantime, guys, everybody have a great holiday weekend. To everybody in the States, hope you have a great Independence Day. Everybody, please stay safe. Enjoy yourselves, but not so much that you put yourself at peril. We love you. We'll see you again soon.
You bet your dog.
Take care, guys. Mwah.
Hit the button!
What button? You give me buttons. I think the mic's still on.